This is part 7 of What the Camera Saw, and here we are going to address the final issue that the camera weighs in on. We know that Gail left her home during the early morning hours of June 1st because she was found tied to a fence outdoors a little while later. So how did she leave the house? And was it an abduction or was it a voluntary departure? You will recall that Gail stated that there was a disturbance at her house. She made 3 trips downstairs to check on things, and it was on her 3rd trip that she felt cold air coming in from her patio door, and then suddenly she experienced a hard blow to her head that rendered her unconscious. There was a bottle heavy enough to deliver this blow that was found laying on her living room floor, and she later woke up as a passenger in her own car, she said, and she remembers very little about the time between the blow to her head and waking up in the car. The police, in contrast, claimed that Gail walked out of her house voluntarily and drove herself away in her own car in order to stage a fake rape, and that they caught this activity on camera because they had a hidden camera at her house that Gail did not know about. So how did Gail get out of the house that night? We do indeed have footage of that moment, and the first thing that the camera tells us is that Gail did not leave her house in the usual manner that night, and her usual habit was simply to enter and exit through the front door, turning lights on as necessary. But as we've seen, the camera view stays black until someone off screen uses the remote to unlock the car. We actually never see anyone leave the house. We never see either door within camera range open. So anyone exiting the house that night either left in complete darkness or they used the sliding glass door that opened onto the front patio and was not captured on camera. And indeed, that patio door was found standing open when police later arrived at the house. And this is odd because leaving through this door is something that Gail never did. She did not carry the key to that door on her key ring. She kept it in a drawer in the kitchen, and she did so because police had advised her not to leave the key in the door's lock. Now, police could have confirmed how she normally left her house because they had a hidden camera. They had footage from numerous evenings, and they could have confirmed what Gail's usual manner of leaving the house was. But the police don't appear to have considered how unusual it is that Gail can't be seen leaving the house on her own volition, using any door on camera. So if hers was a voluntary departure, why didn't she just walk out the front door, turning on lights as needed as she went? There's no point in hiding anything if she doesn't know that a camera is watching. But Gail can never be seen leaving the house. To put this another way, the camera never confirms that Gail's departure from the house was voluntary. Sometimes what the camera doesn't see is just as important as what it does see. So what these facts leave us with is that Gail either left the house voluntarily in a way that was completely atypical for her, through the patio door, walking in the dark without turning on any lights, or she was abducted from the house by one or more persons who very likely knew that there was a hidden camera. Recall that the police were in possession of a significant amount of information indicating that Gail's assailant was a police insider. This information should have put police on notice that there was a strong possibility that Gail's assailant knew about the camera and was taking measures to avoid it. Most obviously, an assailant who knows about the camera would definitely want to avoid abducting Gail through a door within the camera range because they would not want to be identified. And even if they disguised themselves, if the camera caught Gail being carried out of the house while gagged, that would alert the skeptical Gloucestershire police that Gail really was telling the truth and that they had better look for her assailant. And this is an important observation because perpetrators of sex crimes realize that police often do not believe rape victims, and perpetrators use that information to their advantage. Now, an additional reason why an assailant might avoid the use of the front door is because Gail's front entry hall is fairly narrow and it would be difficult to navigate while carrying an unconscious adult. The patio door, which opens directly into the living room, is wider and it would be much easier to navigate. And as I previously mentioned, Gail told police in mid-April of 2008 that her assailant burglarized her house by entering the patio door and scaring her before fleeing. So a person wonders again, why did the police put a hidden camera outside of Gail's house but fail to capture the important patio door on that camera? That is something we will be left to wonder about. But another question that we can address is, if Gail was abducted from the house, was it one person or two people who participated? According to Gail's description of her assailant, he was strong enough to carry her himself because she stated that he slung her over his shoulder and carried her from the car to the location where she was raped. But he probably, even if he was strong enough to carry Gail, he probably wouldn't want to carry Gail upright out of her home for fear of being caught on camera or spotted by a neighbor or a passing motorist. So having an accomplice would be advantageous because two people could carry Gail lower to the ground where she would be concealed by the bushes and shrubbery surrounding the front patio. This would also be better than one person dragging Gail on the ground because the noise of that might alert the neighbors. So what's our takeaway on this point about how Gail got out of the house? Well, the police theory that Gail left the house of her own volition and staged a fake rape is simply not supported by the evidence. The camera does not capture her leaving the house voluntarily and in her ordinary way through the front door and turning on lights as necessary. And this is unusual since she had no idea that a camera was watching and therefore no incentive to alter her usual behavior. She also didn't even carry a key to the patio door with her, so leaving through that door is not consistent with her normal behavior. The fact that Gail is simply never seen leaving the house is most consistent with the theory that she was abducted by someone who knew about the camera and took measures to avoid it. The fact that entry and exit was through the patio door is consistent with what an assailant with knowledge of the camera would do, because that was the best way to avoid having Gail's departure from the home caught on camera. Gail didn't know about the camera, so there's no reason for her to avoid it. So having established the significance of the fact that the camera never records Gail leaving the house, let's now revisit the driver footage that we examined near the beginning of this presentation. So, taking another look at that driver footage, the camera has a few additional lessons for us in relation to this footage. And again, this is the footage that shows one person getting in Gail's car and driving the car out of camera range. And these lessons can also shed some light on whether Gail was abducted or whether she left voluntarily. So first, we should note that no one is to be seen anywhere on camera when the car unlocks. Here's the still of the car being unlocked, and whoever is doing it is off camera. Now we can compare this footage to footage of Gail unlocking the car at 11:13 p.m. to go look for a lost dog collar. This collar that she was looking for belonged to a dog that had been boarding with her, and the owners came and collected the dog around 11:12 p.m. on the night of May 31st into June 1st. And they can actually be seen on the video footage collecting the dog about 90 seconds before Gail goes out to search her car for the lost collar, because she was actually hoping to find it and return it to them before they pulled away. So at 11:13 p.m., Gail unlocks the car as she comes out the front door of her house, and we see her there walk across the patio and to the back passenger door of the car. After searching the car unsuccessfully for the collar, we're going to see her return empty-handed, and we're going to see that she hits the remote to lock the car as she re-enters her home once again through the front door. So she goes back in the house, and as she does so, she locks the car. So when we don't see anyone unlock the car at 1:37 a.m., this is a deviation from Gail's normal pattern of behavior. Gail would have just unlocked the car as she came out of the house. That's what she's done before, and she doesn't know a camera's watching. So where is the person who unlocked the car? And is that person deliberately avoiding the camera? The second thing of note is that after the car is unlocked at 1:37 a.m., the camera tells us that there is a delay of 26 seconds before a person appears at the driver's door. Why is that? It doesn't take 26 seconds to walk to the driver's door after unlocking the car. You can try this experiment yourself. Gail's vehicle was approximately 15 feet long. Try standing a little more than 15 feet behind your driver's door and use a stopwatch to measure how long it takes you to walk to the door at your own pace. I tried this experiment with my 89-year-old mother, and she walked this distance in 5 seconds at her own pace. So perhaps this delay is significant. What was happening during those 26 seconds between unlocking the car and the driver entering the car? Did the car need to be unlocked for some purpose other than the driver getting in? This is where the camera footage again needs to be considered in relation to other available evidence. It's important that we not cherry pick the evidence, but consider all of it together. So here in this case, there were two additional pieces of evidence available to police on this issue. There was a photo that Gail's partner Graham received that night, and there was a broken necklace. Let's consider both of these pieces of evidence. So first of all, Graham told Gail and others that he had received a disappearing photo message later on that evening which showed Gail gagged and lying on the ground at the top of her driveway. He could tell that the photo was taken at the top of her drive because he could see the house in the photo. And he stated that two people had to have been involved in abducting Gail because he could see the feet and lower legs of one of the abductors in the photo, and that person was standing too far away from the camera to be the person taking the picture. Graham shared this information with me back in 2014 when I first began working on this case, and he did so without having any idea whether the rest of the camera footage would support this account, so he can hardly be accused of fabricating this statement in order to somehow help Gail. Back in 2014, to my knowledge, no one helping Gail realized that there was camera footage that corroborated Graham's conclusion that two people were present that night. I certainly didn't realize this back in 2014. But unfortunately, the police never learned about the photo Graham received because they failed to ever conduct an interview with him. Second, a few days after this incident, Gail found a necklace that she had been wearing in the back of the cargo area of her car. It was a necklace that she wore all the time, and when she found it in the back of the car, it was broken. And this find suggested that she had spent time in the cargo area of her car while she was unconscious, and that somehow she was moved in or out of the cargo area, and as she was moved, the necklace somehow broke. So how did the necklace get there? She had not engaged in any activity while she was conscious that could have caused the necklace to break. So, taken together, the broken necklace, the disappearing photo text message sent to Gail's partner, and the 26-second delay between unlocking the car and the driver appearing all point to a particular explanation for these events. And we will take that up in the final video.